Stoke Newington. My interest was partly piqued by the first person I ever spotted who was from around here, Mark Bolan, who was born on Stoke Newington Common. I'll begin with a contemporary quote about Mark. It said, having ascended to the throne of Stoke Newington mods, Mark was expelled from school. It was all downhill from there. So this is a ballad of Mark Bolan, teenage mod, ace face of Stoke Newington Common, late 60s and early 70s pop, glam rock and rock superstar, friend, collaborator and rival with David Bowie, cosmic dancer, electric warrior and leader of T-Rex. And then he was all too quickly gone 2 weeks before his 30th birthday. So Mark, with a K Feld, as he was born, was a Stokey boy through and through. He was born in Homerton Hospital, Hackney Hospital as it was then, the son of a market stall holder and a lorry driver. He attended Northwold Primary School and later, briefly, William Wordsworth School, which is just over the road from where we are now. It's now the Horizon School. Rumours that Mark was expelled from William Wordsworth for riding a white swan couldn't be confirmed before he got here tonight. Mark was an early starter. He was determined to do something with his life. Age 9, he got his first guitar and formed his first group, a skiffle band. While still at school, he played guitar with fellow Northwold primary pupils, Susie and the Hula Hoops. Susie was 12 at the time, went on to become Helen Shapiro, singer of 1961 chart topper, Walking Back to Happiness. Now, Mark, it seems, was quite the dashing adolescent. These are memories about Mark, with a K, posted to one of Amir's Facebook groups by some of his old Stokey school friends. Went to school with Mark. He was so handsome, he liked to send me poems. I remember the last time I saw him at school, he had his mod clothes on. Light brown, no school uniform. Our school uniform was grey. I've hated grey ever since. I got to know Mark quite well, then lost touch. Years later, I was watching TV. I think it was Top of the Pops. And there he was, a massive curls and glitter on his face. Nothing like he was when I knew him. I was gobsmacked. But he was so determined to be a rock star, he knew what he wanted, and he went out and got it. So Mark really had stars in his eyes from the start. And in fact, Mark was claiming he had stars in his eyes before he was even born. In the February 1971 issue of Beat Instrumental, Mark was interviewed by Steve Turner. And Steve's report began like this. At the dawn of Britain's history, Mark Bolan was a bard. In 1956, he served in the Two Eyes Coffee House in Soho to the skiffling rhythms of Tommy Steele and Adam Faith. Then in 1970, he sang Ride a White Swan at Top of the Pops. I definitely believe in reincarnation, Mark told me, dressed in flaming red trousers and a sweater that would be the envy of Captain America. I believe that all my lyrical ability was learned in a past life as a bard. But that present past life began at 25 Stoke Newington Common. As he sang in one of T-Rex's biggest hits though, Whatever Happened to the Teenage Dream? Well, sadly it crashed and died in a Mini 1275 GT on Gypsy Lane in Barnes on 16 September 1977. Mark Bolan was 29, and Stokey's first music superstar was gone. But it all began there. This unassuming laundress was where Mark used to rehearse with Helen Shapiro. Now this laundress, you can organise your online shopping parcels. So it's gone from Telegram Sam to Amazon drop-offs. Now, moving onwards. This unassuming bright yellow building is the Thephoresis in Dogston Lane as was. Another quote from you for the time. There are only certain pockets of reggae freakery in this country. Margate, Tunbridge Wells, Carlisle, Brixton, Stoke Newington. So this is the Thephoresis as it was in Dogston Lane. Obviously it's been swept aside since then in a tidy gentrification. Where once you could hear some of the best reggae in the country, now you can buy a £1 million shoebox flat. Or a flat white coffee that's just a wee bit more expensive. But in the early 70s, it was just one of the reggae hotspots sprinkled around the greater Stoke Newington neighbourhood. I've got a report here from New Musical Express in 1974. It's titled Skanking in Exile, and it's about reggae legend Jimmy Cliff. Now, this feature gives you a flavour of the passion for reggae in those days. Less appealingly, it also gives you a flavour of some of the social attitudes at the time, and this is from a reggae fan. I've been living in Stoke Newington for about 6 months. The area is one of the most cosmopolitan in northeast London, with an immigrant population that moved in on the receding Anglo-Saxon tide, and that now gives the area its character. People dump their rubbish collectively in street corners, that sort of thing. This is a reggae fan. On the whole, a rough area. The school at the top of the road is 90% coloured children, and its share of local notoriety. Teachers are hard to find and harder to replace. Round the corner there's a Caribbean supermarket. Indeed, most of the shops are likely to stock Jamaican condiments as a pound of sausages. In areas such as these, Jimmy Cliff is boss. His occasional concerts at the Hackney All Nations Club, i.e. non-English, are always phenomenally successful, and the harder they come, ran and ran at the Dalston Odeon. You couldn't live apart from reggae around here, even suppose you wanted to. Just as in Jamaica itself, it blares from huge speakers on street corners in Shantytown. So here it is just as well, osmosis into and out of the atmosphere. Reggae music seeps out of the floorboards in Stoke Newington, and from behind the peeling, yellowed wallpaper, and zephyrs out of the windows to linger in the air. Nothing quite like it for soothing the soul. So he almost redeemed the casual racism in the earlier part of that report. So if we've established that Stoke Newington might have been the epicentre of glam rock and possibly reggae, was it also the home of punk rock? Well, consider the evidence. Malcolm McLaren, Sex Pistol manager from Svengali, he grew up at 76 Carrisford Road. And his peculiar upbringing, as it was quoted at the time, imbued with him the qualities that made him such an effective hustler, provocateur, and deal maker. Would there have been a never mind the bollocks had Malcolm McLaren not been able to talk bollocks? Here, for example, is a report from Melody Maker in 1979. Malcolm McLaren does not talk greatly or easily about his past, but the things he does say are often disconcerting. He says this, that he's a distant relative of both Mirror columnist Marjorie Proops and old Hollywood star Danny Kaye, to whom he's related through his mother. That he is also a descendant through her of Jewish immigrants from Portugal named Corey. That his Scots father, whom he has not seen since he was 2 years old, was a burglar. That his mother, who remarried a Jewish rag trade merchant in the East End, was once the mistress of Charlie Clore. And he liked her so little, he was brought up by his maternal mother, who he idolised. As Malcolm and others tell it, his childhood was middle class and peculiar. He lived with his grandmother in a large Victorian house in Clissold Park, an area of Stoke Newington in North London now settled by immigrant communities. His mother and father, whom he despised, lived nearby. He would go over the wall to have Sunday lunch with them. So it sounds like Malcolm had quite a vexed relationship with his local family and community. There's a little bit more insight from a profile in the Face magazine in 1983. By Malcolm's account, his grandmother, who had this house, was a formidable woman who rebelled against her Victorian parents and got involved in, among other things, selling fake paintings. She would tour the great houses, pretending to be down on her luck. Among her possessions to be sold were fakes done by a friend of hers, with whom she made a fair deal of money in this way. While her daughter remarried, she taught her grandson to read, to appreciate art, and to question things around him. She brought me up to criticise the establishment, said Malcolm. She had such a loathing for people who lived a certain way. Anti-establishment, agitation and nonconformism, I'd suggest that from Mary Wollstonecraft to Sid Vicious, Daniel Devoe to Johnny Rotten, is there really such a leap? A topic perhaps for another talk in the pub. So now we're in the punk years. This is the Pegasus in Green Lanes. A quote from the Pegasus. The thin white one went home, but a week later Bowie was to be seen again in the audience when the Psychedelic Forest played the Pegasus Club in Stoke Newington. So, this is the Pegasus, 109 Green Lanes. It was a music pub in the 1780s, hosting many a punk band. As noted in Amir's slide, Sid Vicious was attacked outside it in the heady punk golden summer of 77. Allegedly, it's also where Johnny Lydon became Johnny Rotten. These things presumably only added to its punk credentials. 2 years after this stabbing, it was still going strong, as made clear in the 1979 report in Zigzag magazine about the psychedelic furs. I was introduced to the singer Richard at the Lig following the Banshees' Rainbow Charity Cake. He was propped against a pillar, engaged in an animated conversation with a geezer who looked a bit of a nondescript version of himself. But I think we are living in an age of consciousness, protested Richard's opponent. Casting the incredulous arch-eyebrow look I usually reserve for such old bollocks, I noticed it was only David Bowie. Just then, Richard's younger brother Tim staggered up. Clock Bowie and boomed, "Can't fucking act, can ya?" The thin white one went home, and a week later was in the Pegasus, watching Psyched Out first. "But he didn't speak to us," sniffed Richard. The Pegasus was later owned by Chaz and Dave, and rumours had it that there was a stained glass window in there that showed the two geezers leaning over a piano holding pints. It remains a first-run gig on the ladder for many up-and-coming band. As smash hits Q and Word editor Mark Ellen wrote in his memoir, Rockstar Stole My Life, he started his reviewing career for Enemy and Stokey. Mark wrote this: "I chipped away at the coalface for 2 years, covering worthy, well-intentioned acts lugging amps through the get-in of the Pegasus in Stoke Newington. The pinnacle of his career was a review from a stringer like me. The Carpets, the Dandies, the T-Sets, the Bollard Brothers, Ritz with his head, Agony Column. Where are they now? Tell you where, Mark, they're in my next talk. I'm here to look for the slides right now." We're still in the pub. This is the Rochester Castle. The castle, the spoons. These days it's the place on High Street where you can get a bacon roll, a Lavazza coffee and a pint for less than £4 at 8 in the morning. It's also the oldest standing Wetherspoons in the country, having been taken over by Wetherspoons in 1982, 3 years after the Brexit supporting chain was instituted. It's also the place I'll be spending my retirement days, embraced by its warm brown fog and very cheap beer. My children are there right now, actually. In the late 70s and early 80s, though, it was one of the best gig venues in all of North London. As you can see, this is just a sample of the bands who played there. Everyone went through the doors with a Roch. However, not everyone was impressed. In December 2016, Hackney Gazette did a story on the Rochester Castle history. "The gigs were at the back," says regular Dave Robson. He's been drinking there since 1975. "It used to get a bit lively at times, sometimes too lively. It was quite rough. It wasn't really just punk though, it was pretty eclectic. I saw loads of bands there. I can't remember who they were though, they were all shit." Thanks, Dave. Still there now. It's always unhappy hour for Dave. Moving on. This is some of the bands who played the Rochester. Radio Birdman, who I think we found they were Australian indie band, didn't we, Amir? Mm-hmm. This is probably the only ever gig in Britain, but that was it. Were you there? Okay, moving on. We're still in the pub. Slash venue. This is the Vortex. The Vortex in Church Street. Jazz Crucible turns peri-peri chicken mecca. Now, as most people here might know, the original venue was closed in 2004 by the usual suspects, evil property developers, but reopened in Dalston Gillette Square, where it continues to thrive. For all Nando's popularity, though, with the local youth, the Vortex didn't go without a fight. Now, it was founded in 1988 by an ex-black cabbie called David Mossman, who actually died in December, aged 76. As one of the tributes said of him, "It's hard to pin down not how much David Mossman helped the jazz scene in London by starting the Vortex. I doubt if that would even have been on his mind when he opened the doors in Stoke Newington Church Street. He just started putting on jazz as a way to make the cafe and art gallery work. in an area known more for IRA bomb factories than what it is today. It's quite unfair. Mr. Mossman kept a diary of the final club month on Church Street. This is his entry from 18th of May 2004, when it was staring down the bulldozers, as we shall see. Here's somebody actually been through the doors. This was the protest in 2004. At the time, Mr. Mossman wrote this: "Crass agendas night. The veteran punks who in their day made Johnny Rotten and Sid Vicious look like choir boys. Penny Rambo, Eve Libertine, Steve Ignorant and G. Boucher. Penny, he's a bloke, has started a petition to keep the Vortex in Stoke Newington and puts up a notice in the club saying, 'This is the spiritual home of jazz and we ain't leaving.' The resultant petition ends up going to the council with 3,000 signatures on it. We're committed to going to the new arts building in Dalston now if we can raise the cash, but maybe there'll be 2 Vortexes. Sadly, it was not to be, but at least the old Vortex became a Nando's and not a Sainsbury's. Can you imagine that? More protesting. Another pub. So tonight we've already been at the southern end of what we might call Greater Stoke Newington. Now we're at the northern end, Manor House. Forget Eel Pie Island or King's Road or anywhere else in West London, wherever the hell that is. Manor House was the real crucible for British blues and R&B in the 60s. In the 60s, this pub, halfway up Green Lanes in the southeast corner of Finsbury Park, played host to them all. The Animals, The Who, Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Cliff, Cream, Fleetwood Mac, all performed upstairs in various venues called the Bluesville R&B Club, the Downbeat Club and the Rainbow Rooms. Interviewed again by our friends at Hackney New Gazette 2 years ago, former punter Raymond Rayfield remember taking a date to see original supergroup Cream in the Manor House Tavern. It was so crowded and the bar was tiny. That club couldn't happen today as it was always overly packed with people and the staircase was too narrow. If there was ever a fire, hundreds could have been killed. Ah, the good old days. Years later, Bill Wyman remarked, "It's about the only old Stones venue that still exists." The Manor House closed shortly afterwards. Cheers, Bill. This is some of the bands who went through the doors of that unassuming, strangely mock Tudor venue halfway up the road. And more. They're all there. I mean, you did one of the history talks there as well, didn't you? First one. Okay, while we're up in Manor House, bad manners. Let's raise a pint or two to the original Manor House Root Boys, Bad Manners. The ska band, led by the gut-busting Buster Bloodvessel, were formed at the nearby Woodbury Down Comprehensive. When the school closed in 1981, Bad Manners commemorated, or indeed celebrated, its demise in the back sleeve of their album, Gosh, It's Bad Manners. Buster's still going, by the way. Honestly, we've never stopped since 1976. We might have had hundreds of members over the years. I think it's about 300. But we've always had fun when we're playing regardless of who it is, and our audience always has a great time. This is not untrue. The band rocked Brighton's Concord 2 only 2 months ago. The Bad Manners gig started as it always does, with a chorus of "You fat bastard!" directed at the band's frontman, Buster Bloodvessel, began the review from Brighton's Argus. But the irony is, after decades of fronting one of the most energetic bands in the country, and a gastric bypass in 2004, the 60-year-old no longer has his trademark beer belly. So that's lip up, not so fatty. Okay, for anyone getting vertigo from being at Manor House, we're coming back south now. The Pretenders. Now, Beverley Studios was located on the corner of Lordship Road and Church Street Studio. It was owned by 2 guys from Beverley near Hull, hence the name. Now, the Pretenders rehearsed and recorded there, and in 1980 released a single, Talk of the Town. One story has it the Talk of the Town was named after the West End venue, famous for being the last place that Judy Garland ever sang before dying weighing only 7 stone. That's how poor Judy was in the end. Or was this song titled and Sleeve inspired by Talk of the Town of Stoke Newington High Street, outside which the band were famously photographed? A shop selling quote-unquote second-hand furniture and shop-soil bargains. That's surely more punk rock than a West End nightclub. And it's definitely better for our Stoke N Roll story, so we're sticking with that one. I did try and get Chrissy Hind on the phone to clarify the story, but she wasn't available, so she won't be getting a Mark Bowling plaque around here anytime soon. And there is the colour version of the picture. The plaque, identifiable plaque above it, still there. Is that next to Halfords, Amir?
Get the next one.
Next to Halfords. We're almost up to the present day. This is the Stoke Newington Secondary School Triumvirate. Asa Butterfield, handsome young chap. Labyrinth, poorly spelled artist. Professor Green's tattooed occasional rapper. Upper Clapton native but will claim him for tonight's purposes. All connected by Stoke Newington Secondary School. That's Professor Green's new song. I interviewed Labyrinth a few years ago, and he talked fondly of his time at Stoke Newington. When he should have been in spelling class and apostrophe class, he was doing this. I used to be in the music room every other minute. I used to get in trouble deliberately for being in there. I would literally disrupt classes to get into the music room constantly. And after a while, teachers just knew, yeah, Timothy's going to be in there again. Labyrinth was born Timothy Mackenzie. I knew what I wanted to do when I was at school, and I was frustrated because of that. I was bored. I knew what to make music, so why am I here? And when I left, I studied music theory on my own at home. Most of the stuff I've learned about my studio production and writing, I've learned off the internet. I still go to bed with manuals. I'm a proper geek. And now he's a millionaire proper geek, so who's laughing now? Then we have Asa Butterfield, who I interviewed just last month. He talked about going to Stoke Newington School and doing music and doing acting. He said, Professor Green came in and did a talk when I was in year 7 at Stokey, and I was saying to everyone, yeah, I know Pro Green. No one believed him, but it was true. The story is that XFM had a rock school competition when I was 8. So me and my dad did a cover of Wheatus's Teenage Dirtbag. My little high voice singing the I'm just a teenage dirtbag line. I didn't win, but because I was the youngest entrance, they sent me a mini Fender Strat. And then the music technician at school, Alex, spotted this. He worked with Professor Green and he scouted me for his track. The track was called Shut Your Noise, and I was a little kid singing the chorus. But then my mum wouldn't let me hear the track because it was really rude. But that is my claim to fame, says the star of The Boy in Striped Pyjamas, Hugo, and current Netflix sensation City Education. And finally, we end where we should end, with one of the greatest artists of modern times, one of the greatest videos of modern times. Back to Black was shot in Abbey Cemetery and the surrounding streets in spring 2007.